What the squidding hell have you got me into this time, Bobcat? This is the 5 Point Podcast, and for some reason we're watching this show.
Yes, I'm Bobcat, and with me as always...
And I don't want to be here.
Oh, come on.
No. We were supposed to watch a good anime this time. Not Invasion Squid Girl. Why?
So for those of you joining us for the first time, here at the
I
5 Point
hate
Podcast...
you!
Here at the 5 Point Podcast, Bert
We
hates us.
hate you!
I don't hate them.
I do. And I am enough for both of us.
So at the 5 Point Podcast, we look at shows based on 5 different characteristics. First impression, story, characters, presentation, which is everything from animation to music, and then
Final thoughts. I was wondering if you'd screw that up.
You know, I came up with the 5 points. Having 5 points was my idea, but dang if I can remember them consistently.
You did better than last week where you totally cocked it up. Good job.
Yeah, I derped hard last week.
You squidded very, very badly. And yes, I am Burke. All of you can go die.
So yes, this week we did Invasion Squid Girl. Let's get this squid on the road. Point 1, first impression. Burke, did you have any...
Squid you.
And I'm like a squid, you, ooh, 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 with all this ink
Do
in
you
my
want
chest.
me to kill you?
Fortunately, I have 1,000 miles of space between me and you.
No, you don't.
Ah! Okay, teleport
Right,
back to
as
where
the
you came from.
chloroform takes effect... Okay, my first thoughts, he'll be waking up here soon.
Pleasant guess.
Oh, shut up before I touch you. Oh yeah, first impressions. Honestly, they were tainted by someone, because he couldn't stop his love of the show. So I was expecting it to be a fair bit like Invader Zim and Sergeant Frog, which are fine shows if you care for the type. It was, only it had one crippling flaw. The Invader character of this story is even stupider than Zim and Grr.
That's getting past our first impressions. So your first impression was I built it up for you too much, and I'm sorry.
You ruined this for me.
So my first impression was I'd heard good things about it. And from the stuff I'd seen, I was expecting this to be in that sort of Invader Zim, Sergeant Frog type thing. Did I say, from what I had seen of the description, I'd expected this to be in a Sergeant Frog / Invader Zim type of vein.
What in the world did you do to that sentence to begin with?
Me and talk English good.
Stop with the hulks on phonics. It's not helping.
Hulked on phonics worked for me.
No, it didn't. Okay, moving on to part 2.
Story.
We expected good things. So, how are the story? How are the story?
How are the story?
Hulk! Squid Girl come from sea. Squid Girl take over world. Squid Girl incompetent and not good.
Yeah, so the story starts off with what looks like a serious bent. It's shot from her point of view as she looks upon the pollution littering the ocean floor. Humanity must pay for its sins. And then the theme song begins, and there's a cute little girl with squid tentacles for hair, running around, having adventures.
She doesn't have adventures. She threatens to kill people, take over the world, and subjugate humanity, and people just react nonchalantly or want to have sex with her.
Well, to be fair, it's only the one person who wants to have sex with her.
True. And one person is deathly, illy afraid of her.
Yes. So, it's a very episodic show. In fact, very episodic. Every episode actually has 3 episodes.
Which violated so many rules that I have to get back at Bobcat for some reason.
Right, Burke feels that he could have stopped watching after the first episode because we always look at the first 3 episodes of a show, and he said to himself, aha, I've already watched 3 episodes in 20 minutes. But he persevered anyway.
Because I knew you, the viewers at home, would not allow anything less. And for that, I will personally stab you all while you sleep. Jerks.
So the show's plot is basically the titular Squid Girl going around encountering humanity in humorous ways.
Squiddin' right it is.
I suppose that we should also say the setting. The setting is that the first spot she chooses to invade is a seaside restaurant.
Beach cafe thing.
Run by 2 sisters and their younger brother.
And later on, a very scared little girl who likes to surf.
And on her first day there, Squid Girl declares that she has conquered the human race, and everyone ignores her because she is kind of cute.
She looks like a little girl with weird blue hair, which honestly is the norm for anime, and wearing a very, very, very cheap-looking hat. This is a plot point.
Yes. Or at least it's something they lampshade for humor.
I choose to view that as part of the plot, otherwise it has none. After she declares herself the ruler of humanity and all that, she gets put to work helping out in the restaurant, and actually really gets into it. But it's only after she screws up the first time. No, cat, you cannot be in the review. My cat wants to eat the Squid Girl. I can't help it, okay? Anyways, after she screws up, she realizes, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be taking over. And then she tries to show off her powers and punches a hole through a wall, getting herself indicted into helping out full time.
In order to pay off her debt to humanity, or at least to the sisters.
Yes.
Now, because the way this show works, I think that's as much as we need to say about the plot. We can just move right into characters.
That's all the plot is. The rest of it's random hijinks involving her being deathly afraid of blow-up toys of orcas and sharks, while thinking that intangible ghosts are completely normal and friendly.
I think there was actually a decent reason for that. But let's talk about Squid Girl.
And more specifically, the characters of Squid Girl, because we're already talking about the show Squid Girl.
That's the trouble of having a character who is also the title.
Squid and right it is.
Squid right.
I will kill you.
Point 2. Characters. So, we have our Squid Girl.
She is Invader Zim, only not as competent, intelligent, or with as many good plans.
Now, to be fair, there is a difference between the two. Zim comes from an alien empire, and presumably he went to school, or at least had knowledge downloaded straight into his brain or something. In that universe, I would fully believe that the aliens just beam information into children's brain, and in Zim's case, they missed. On the other hand, Squid Girl comes from the bottom of the ocean. Now, one thing we sort of forgot to mention is that she appears to be completely human, yet she regards herself as a squid. There's no indication that she's from Atlantis or anything like that. She's just a squid, who, by all appearances, is a human.
I have a theory about that, but I'll save it after we're done with the initial character stuff.
Okay? Now, her personality is... She is like Keroro. Is it Keroro or Kiroro?
You might want to explain, because I doubt everyone has seen Sergeant Frog.
Oh, I was going to explain. I just couldn't remember...
Keroro.
Kero. Anyway.
I will eat you.
She's a lot like Keroro from Sergeant Frog.
Only not as smart.
And that's quite the accomplishment.
Because Keroro is basically Zim with half a brain.
Yes. He is also an incompetent invader. One thing I notice is I love incompetent invader shows.
How is this a genre?
I don't know.
I'm confused!
There are at least 3 now.
Maybe 4 if you count Alf.
Yeah, was Alf invading? I know he was trying to eat our cats, but...
I assume he would also stop saying cats because it brought mine back. You cannot be in the review. No.
I would say that Squid Girl's personality is basically... It's a sort of character who you could only works in a comedy. She is selfish, she is stupid, she is ignorant, she does want to conquer humanity as punishment for dirtying up the ocean.
Which isn't apparent at all in the show, because the ocean's clean as hell.
Maybe she just came from a particularly dirty section.
Well, one big difference between her and Zim or Keroro is that Keroro is a selfish guy, and he's not exactly the nicest frog in the universe, but he's nicer than most. But even then, he's pretty hostile. And Zim is outright insane and a psychopath. She's not. She's a nice girl at the heart of it. She's just really, really young and really, really, really stupid.
I'd say that she's more misguided than evil.
She's not evil at all. She's just stupid. Not as evil tentacle in our body.
If people were dumping garbage in your squidding backyard constantly and killing your friends with pollution.
Stop your squidding mouth. You don't know how to use it correctly.
That's another characteristic she has. Now, I saw a little clip of the dub. She doesn't do this in the dub. they have to change the pun because apparently in Japanese, the word for squid is very versatile as far as a pun goes.
Actually, I did some research on that. It's not. Why did you... Oh, God. This is less professional than usual. What she says is desu geru, or something like that. And what it basically amounts to is some kind of fancy version of tentacle, specifically the kind you eat. What the fan subs, however, did, because that's actually one of the only ways you can find the show, though it's legal somehow. I am confused on this matter.
That's Crunchyroll. They're legit.
Anyways, the fan subs, or at least subs done by fans, decided to play with this and spice up her linguistic ability. So instead of saying desu geru in the middle of her sentences, she says a squid-based pun. Squiddingly, squid, squidding, and sometimes the odd tentacle joke.
I see. Now, in the English dub, they rendered this as stuff like, "What are you inking? You have a lot of gull," etc., etc.
Yeah, I'm really glad I didn't watch the English dub now. Anyways, one other thing, well, I'll cover the subs in full when we get to them.
Normally we do this as presentation, but the puns are such a part of her character.
She says them every time!
They're such a part of her character that you couldn't leave them out. So do you have anything else to add about Squiddy? Oh yeah, and she vomits food.
Specifically, she vomits ink, squid ink, which is edible, apparently. I did not know that before the show.
Yeah, apparently in Japan they make spaghetti and then you put squid ink on it.
That is a type of spaghetti you can have. Though, I will voice one concern, which is not a concern of the show. The show does not sexualize her at all, nor should it. But, quite frankly, with all of her little tics, her tentacle hair, her short skirt, and other things, especially the vomiting edible stuff,
It's not a short skirt. It goes to her knees.
it's short enough for some fans.
Yeah.
I couldn't shake this fear that I was watching someone's fetish idol.
Yeah, unfortunately that's kind of the risk you take going anywhere online anymore. It's like the people who think Pinkie Pie is sexy.
Oh, God. Oh, well, better than the Fluttershy fans.
I think that the best way to describe her comes from an observation I made to a friend of ours while I was watching an episode wherein she rescued a drowning child, and people were congratulating her, and she looks off to the side and acted embarrassed and was all, "So it's not that I care about people, I just did it this one time." And that comment was, "She's tsundere towards humanity."
Say that word again and I kill you.
Come on, we're anime reviewers, we're allowed.
No, we're not. Take a dozen classes of Japanese and get back to me.
Okay.
You are not deserving of that term.
Okay, Burke, you've made your point.
I hate you.
So,
Okay, moving on. Next character.
yeah, let's move on to the sisters.
Honestly, we have a lot of characters, which is amazing considering there's no plot.
Well, in a show with no plot, you kind of have to have characters to make up the difference.
Yes, but you think they could get by on the characters they have. No, by the time episode 3 rolls around, we have, what, half a dozen new cast members? Well, 3.
Actually, I think we'll have just about as many characters to talk about this time as last time. The difference is that this time, the character descriptions aren't all going to sound exactly the same, i.e. jerk pretty boy.
Or crazy pink-haired girl boy.
That's right, the show didn't have a pink-haired girl.
No, and it didn't have a pink-haired girl archetype either. So, 1 point for the show. $1 billion off for the theme song!
We'll get to that in a minute. Let's talk about the Aizawa sisters.
Okay, let's talk about the sane one first.
So, Eiko.
I have no idea what in the world you just said. She has red hair, and has something of a temper, but is overall a pretty good girl as long as you don't blow a hole in her wall.
Or threaten to conquer her planet.
She doesn't care about that, actually. She just puts you to work.
She's the voice of reason on the show.
She really is. She's sort of has a thing for the lifeguard character who we'll get to, though he's blind to it, and it's actually fairly subtle, sort of, as subtle as this show can be.
She's the manager of the restaurant.
Yes.
She likes to bait Squid Girl a lot. Not in the sense of using her to try to catch fish or anything, but actually no, in one episode she literally does bait her.
Okay, there's going to be another character who's deathly afraid of Squid Girl. She wanted to prove to that character just how much of a pushover Squid Girl was by giving her just a simple little stick with a shrimp tied on a string at the end. And then Squid Girl appeared out of nowhere and attached herself to the string.
She fell for it hook, line, and sinker. But
Oh! Anyways, overall she puts up with the insanity fairly well. And really, she's probably the most normal character out of all of them.
except maybe the younger brother, but we'll get to him in a minute.
Now for the most insane character of the cast.
Who at first appears to be the least insane character.
Unless you realize that anyone who has their eyes constantly closed are either insane or Brock from Pokemon. And since she had breasts, well, I hope she's not Brock.
If she's Brock, then no, I'm not even going to pursue that line of thought. The older sister is Chizuru. She seems to be the main cook.
She's also a blue-haired girl.
Yes. She seems like a nice, calm person. And then Squid Girl realizes one day, when Rain has forced away all the customers, hey, there's only 3 of them now.
That, and also she was afraid that they were going to eat her.
Right. So Squid Girl attacks the brother and Eiko. Chizuru comes back, and she proceeds to use ninja skills to cut off all of her tentacles.
Specifically, she just picks them up in midair with her tentacles, not even hurting them. Chizuru then brutally... Apparently Squid Girl can regenerate. We'll put it that way.
Yeah. Oh yeah, something else we should have mentioned was with Eiko. The reason that the 3 thing was important was because the first time Squid Girl showed up, Eiko told her, so how exactly do you plan to dominate 6.4 billion people? 6.4 billion? How many people did you think there were? I thought there were about 1,000 humans. And you thought you could dominate 1,000 humans. Well, yeah.
Yeah. Apparently she can't do math either.
So that was about the only time that Chizuru in those episodes was particularly noteworthy.
Yes, the rest of the time she's just kind of in the background, menacingly, or being pined after by the lifeguard.
Let's talk about the lifeguard.
Okay, he really enjoys throwing his shirt off for any given reason, including ghosts.
His name is Goro Arashi.
His name is Lifeguard.
Goro Arashiyama. You know how sometimes
Lifesaver.
what the subtitle says is different than the actual words you hear? He's Lifesaver.
Yes, we could do without the English. But yes, his name is Lifesaver, apparently. Because at one point, Squid Girl mistakes that for Lightsaber, which would actually be a far better name for him. Still.
The first time we meet Goro, he saves Squid Girl from drowning. Now I want you to think about that for a second. And Eiko, being the voice of reason, immediately said, wait, how could he drown? Well, my tentacles cramped. That isn't what I was asking. And then she realized that she'd spent so much time above water that she'd forgotten she could breathe water.
Yes.
That was the moment when I decided that she was dumber than Peter Griffin.
Yeah. In fact, later on, in that very same episode, she spends several hours underwater.
I guess once she was reminded that she could, it was easy enough to do.
Apparently.
Goro has a crush on Chizuru, the scary sister, and he seems to be a bit of a scaredy cat.
At least when ghosts are involved. He doesn't have any trouble with saving lives in the ocean.
That's true. I wonder if he's supposed to be intentionally a Baywatch parody, because the first time we meet him, he's running down the beach with a bunch of other guys, and I think it might have been in some sort of slow motion. So let's move on to Takeru, who is the younger brother of Eiko and Chizuru.
Should we have gotten to him third? He came before the Lifesaver.
Yes, but you gave me such a good segue.
Yes, I did. Squid me for that.
Squidding A, man. Squidding A.
I hate.
So Takeru meets Squid Girl in the first episode, and he immediately wants to join up with her. He's the first human that she conquered, and so far only human that she conquered.
Even then, she didn't so much conquer him as, he's just sort of along for the ride.
You can't conquer the willing.
Yeah.
She says, "I'm taking over the world." "Oh, cool. Can I join too?"
Of course!
"You have to call me Captain." "Okay, Captain."
She should have said, you have to give me $5. And if she was Sergeant Frog, she probably would have.
All that really separates her from Sergeant Frog are about 20 IQ points, and she has no Gundam model obsession.
Yeah, and she's, again, not as mean as he can be.
Yeah. Next character would be Sanae Nagatsuki, who is an airhead who owns a dog, and she has perverse sexual lust for Squid Girl.
Yes, especially her tentacles.
Was it the tentacles in particular?
Yeah, well, no, but she wanted to get wrapped up in those tentacles, remember?
Ah, yes.
So,
At one point, she maneuvered things so that she would be alone with Squid Girl for several hours, so she could make Squid Girl dress up in little outfits so she could take pictures. Which is interesting because even then, the show failed to really sexualize... Well, failed makes it sound like it's bad. The show didn't really sexualize Squid Girl. It was sort of interesting. Like, you could tell that Sanae thought it was sexy or cool or something to have all these different pictures of her in different outfits.
yes.
But the way it was drawn, it wasn't necessarily hot or anything.
We'll get to that when we get to presentation.
So we said earlier that the show didn't really do anything perverted with Squid Girl, and you'd say to yourself, but wait, you have this character who's lusting after her and taking weird photos. No, even then they don't do anything really bad like that.
No, was she in the third episode?
I can't remember. Yeah, she was there for the birthday party. Squid Girl has a birthday party in one
No, that
episode.
was the second episode. That was the second episode.
Was it the second episode?
Yes.
I thought that was like the first
Third
part of the
episode
third.
began with the ghosts.
Ah, yes. Okay, never mind.
Why do I remember this better than you?
Because I was busy enjoying myself.
I hate you.
So, the last character that we saw in the first 3 episodes is Nagisa Saito.
No.
She's
Surfer Girl. That's her name.
She's introduced in the last part of the 3rd episode as a new employee at the Surf Shack.
Yes, she wants to work at a beach cafe because, well, that would... Why did you do that?
I'm sorry.
You jerk.
I'll cut it
That's
out.
No, I'm not letting you. That's the second time. It better be this one, because you did it right in the middle. That was great timing.
By the way, for those of you at home, I have a terrible cold right now.
I have a broken tailbone, so I am probably sounding a little bit off right now.
Yes, but at the same time, it's hard to make a tailbone sound.
Yes, so I just choose to hate you more. Oh,
Anyway.
God, all the hate. Okay, now what was I saying before you honked at me?
Surfer Girl.
Oh, yeah. Surfer Girl. She wants to... Do you want to honk again, just to get it out of the way?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. By the way, in case he edits the first one out, he also did this before. Okay. Honking aside, she wants to work at a beach cafe because she's a surfer girl, and she wants to surf more often. So she figures that she can get some waves on her break or something. In any case, she is the only person to see Squid Girl as a threat. For very silly reasons. You might say that she's the only sane person, but quite frankly, Squid Girl is too stupid to do anything, even if she wanted to.
And yet, Squid Girl loves her because she's afraid of her. It's a weird sort of validation when you've been unsuccessfully invading the world for weeks on end to finally have somebody treat you like a threat.
Yes, she's all but her own fangirl.
In a weird
Squid
way.
Girl, that is. Which I'm sure is going to make the one girl very, very, very jealous.
I hope there's an episode like that.
I'm sure you'll see it. And then you'll tell me about it.
I can be quiet about it if you don't want to hear about it.
I didn't say that. I just said that I hate you. Also, cat, go away.
Okay, that's all the characters.
We actually went over them all for a change.
Yeah, what I'll say here is that for those of you who listened in last week we had a cast that was larger than this, but we had less to say about them than this show, where the characters are so simple and kind of little comedic stereotypes.
Most of the cast last week didn't do squid.
It's kind of hard to have comments when every character can be summed up as obnoxious pretty boy.
Still, yeah, larger cast, but less character. Your squid is as good as mine.
They play off each other well.
Swimming right, they did.
Okay, so that was point 3, characters. Point 4, presentation.
Okay, one thing we need to cover right off the bat, because it addresses one issue I kind of had, that, quite frankly, I'm pretty sure this is someone's fetish's wet dream, and even though the main character was forced into a lot of cosplay, it was not drawn to be titillating, is because the animation, while kinda generic and blobby, is not in any way sexual. No one is meant to look, fan servicey. Everyone is just normal.
Even the really buff lifeguard looks normal.
Well, he's about the most fan servicey character there is, which makes me wonder if the author is a woman or not, because he's always taking off his shirt. And he has amazing pecs.
Yep, made by a woman.
I was joking. Oh, God.
No, wait, no. Known for his work. I guess the person in the Crunchyroll thing who was showing you how to make a Squid Girl hat was someone else.
Okay.
So nope, done by a guy.
Okay, never mind. He's about the most sexualized character we have, and even then, that's only because he's constantly shirtless and really buff. All the other characters, even when they're wearing swimsuits, and so far only Squid Girl has worn a swimsuit, are just normal. They're not drawn in any fan servicey way, and frankly, I'm not sure how you could get any fan service from them.
Yeah.
It's pretty neutral.
Which is unique for an anime that it would be so easy for this to go the wrong way.
Yes, easy fan service for the sake of fan service is a sin many, many anime have committed. Especially if they don't need to. Rosario plus vampire. It knows what it did.
So yeah, the animation gets points for that. Also in the first episode, when Squid Girl is showing off the powers of her tentacles, they had some pretty nice effects for that.
Yes.
They were very good at drawing the tentacle stuff. She would be a great Spider-Man villain.
The animation is solid and fluid. It's kind of generic. It's not top of the line, but it doesn't really need to be. I didn't notice any real repeating animations. No, Cat, you cannot be in the review.
Right. The only thing I could say that they probably repeated were the backgrounds. Because so far, the show has had exactly one change of venue. And that was when they went to a graveyard to look for ghosts.
I wish they had stayed there.
Compared to other shows we've done, it was better than Earthsea.
Yes, which is really, really, really sad.
This is a really stupid gag show. What's it doing having better animation than a Studio freaking Ghibli production?
Now, don't get me wrong. The animation on that was... 3 times, folks! 3 times! Oh, you couldn't have chose the honking better, Bobcat. You couldn't have. That should be... him being sick is hilarious. If it makes you feel better... Folks at home, because I don't want Bobcat to. I am in pain right now. Not because of Squid Girl, but because, again, I broke my butt. Now then, just to reiterate, Studio Ghibli, the movie Earthsea Dragon Girl thing, did not have bad animation, but it had very, very generic animation. It had very samey animation.
If you had ever seen another Studio Ghibli production before, it looked like you'd averaged all those other ones together.
Yeah, it's also we're at 3 honks now. Anyways, Ben, I have to say, I think Heat Guy J may still rank as having some of the best animation we've seen.
Oh, definitely.
This, though, definitely has some of the most solid as well. Probably better than Baka and Test.
I would say that Baka and Test was better than this at its best, but it didn't go to its best very often.
Only for like a minute per episode.
Yeah. Now let's talk about music.
That is my thoughts.
Now see, I'm usually the one saying, oh, this show's theme wasn't bad. Burke, you're overreacting. No, the theme for this show is kind of terrible.
1 second, let me do that again. I think I can do it better. I'd prefer ham bone.
I have a good ear for music, and I like pop music. And I can't remember it, but I know I didn't like it.
It doesn't fit the show.
No.
it's way too cutesy when the show itself isn't all that cutesy.
Right. The show is cutesy, but it isn't as cutesy as the theme song.
It's cutesy in a very different way. That was like girly cutesy. This is more like, well, comedy cutesy. Maybe it would have changed if we knew what the lyrics were, but quite frankly, the song itself was terrible, the sounds involved.
Crunchyroll didn't have subtitles for the theme music.
And speaking of, I sort of mentioned this earlier, but the subtitles do something interesting, and it's something I don't get to talk about often because, frankly, we rarely run into subtitled shows. Typically, we find shows on Netflix or some such, and the only option is the dub. Here, the subtitles let me present a different thing, namely the fact that Japan uses prefixes. They use san, chan...
Those are technically suffixes.
Suffixes, I kill you.
Honorifics. Whatever you want to call it.
Honorifics, honorifics, honorifics up your spleen. Anyways, the honorifics, some people love to see them in the subtitles. Certain fan-subbing groups and certain subbing groups in general keep them intact, sometimes with the translation note, sometimes not. But certain other shows, certain other groups, fan-subbing or official, tend to have some fun with them. Like, if you call a little boy, like your brother, Oni-chan, they will translate it as little brother or brat or something else. They will play around with it, keep the meaning, the spirit of the word, without actually keeping the clunky titles. Nothing against honorifics, they're fine, but some people don't like them, some people do. That's all I'm going to say on the matter. For me, I don't really care either way. They did that here. All the honorifics got changed around, and Squid Girl's desu crap got changed into the squid-based puns we mentioned before. And apparently the dub did a slightly different thing with it.
The dub is brand new, and you can buy the DVD on Amazon, but they don't have it online available for streaming anywhere. But they had a couple of clips of it on YouTube, and rather than having every pun be squid, they had a lot of variation, like, what are you inking? And gull instead of gall, and etc., etc.
Squid, am I glad I didn't watch the dub.
Yeah, I can see what they were going for there, and I can sort of see how they would think that having some more variation would be better. But I think that the squidding, squiddly, etc. is better.
Squid, right it is.
And it's another similarity it has with Sergeant Frog.
Shut the squid up!
Since in that show they're constantly saying things like, what the frog, man? At least in the dub.
Which actually isn't a comparison at all because we're talking about the sub here versus the dub. You jerk. Get it right!
I'm sorry.
Though I will say one thing in this show's favor. Sergeant Frog isn't nearly as funny with the sub. This show works just fine with the sub. Maybe it's because the fact that it was changed slightly to fit English better.
The thing with Sergeant Frog is that, okay, Japanese humor as a whole tends to be related to puns. The thing is that puns don't translate at all. So when you're doing a Japanese humor show, you have two options. One, you can try to keep the original meaning, and then you're stuck having huge blocks of text pop up on the screen to explain why that's funny. Or you just make up your own dub.
Or you completely screw over the audience and don't explain the joke.
Yes, well, that's the third option that, while I would like to pretend it didn't happen, happens way too often.
It's pretty much a common occurrence. Because, never forget, I'm not the only one who hates you. Everyone else hates you too. Probably because you're a terrible human being.
Oh.
I'm not talking to you.
You're talking to the audience. That makes you feel better.
I hate you too.
What I'll say for the show is that, with Bobcat and Test, what I said was that I don't think that most anime work well for being humorous in subtitles. This is one big exception. And I think it's because the animation does the slapstick so well that even having to read while looking at it doesn't detract from it.
Yes, the animation is really, really good. I kind of wish other shows had the same level of animation. If it did, we might be better off. But it doesn't, so we aren't, so screw the world, I want to get off. Which, actually, this is kind of depressing, but I think this is going to be our shortest review yet. which is bizarre since we spent so much time talking about the characters. There's just no plot to speak of.
And there's also very few things, aside from the theme song, that went utterly wrong. Now, there were things that annoyed you besides the theme song. There was nothing to the level of, "Since when is she a dragon?"
Oh, wait. One thing I forgot to mention. My personal theory. That's what I was going to mention earlier because I'm retarded. I don't think the human body we see is hers. I think that she is the little paper hat thing that is on top of her head. We see in the second or third part the little brother makes a paper mache hat and later adds some blue streamers to it, and that alone tricks her into thinking that he's one of her people now. And when he loses it, she just thinks that the squid died. So I think she might actually be using a human host body.
Which would be dark and amusing at the same time.
Yes.
I am a human Dalek.
I'm going to kill you now. Final thoughts. Are you going to do it or am I?
I was going to let you go first. You have sort of a bad cop, good cop thing going here.
No, we don't. That would imply that I'm actually working with you.
You're working at me.
I'm working against you at every single step. I'm the glass that you have to step on to throw a bomb out a window.
You are Darkwing Duck?
No, I am the master, and you are my little elf Jesus that I keep in a cage.
Wait, what?
You brought in the Doctor Who jokes!
I don't know what you're talking about, but let's move on. So, Burke,
Never.
you said earlier that I kind of spoiled it for you by talking about it with you, and I'm sorry about that.
I will never forgive you.
So what were your final thoughts? Did you like the show at all?
Choose one and go with it. First off, are you going to honk again sometime soon? Because that is hilarious.
Nope, I wasn't planning to honk anymore.
Okay. I don't believe you, but okay. My final thoughts. It's not a bad show. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not exactly my cup of tea. But then again, let's face it, this series, is not about me watching things I like. Is it?
Nope.
I hate you people. Every day my hate gets justified more and more. And it's your fault. Even yours, Ben.
Oh.
Anyways, nope, no, my turn to speak.
Okay.
The hate will flow. Okay, nothing's wrong with the show. It's really well made. It's just, I prefer my shows to have a little bit more of a plot to them. Mind, we haven't gotten that, at least in a well-done fashion, but that's because I live in an endless hell, apparently. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I think the show that's given us the best plot so far was actually Bobcat and Test.
Somehow!
That's saying something. I mean, for God's sakes, it was a plot designed to justify fan service and silly video game fights.
Something is wrong with the universe. Why do you all
How does it
hate
have
me?
a worse plot than an adaptation of beloved fantasy series? Or a cyborg detective. It's amazing.
Oh, God. If you ever needed a reason for why I hate everything, you people give it to me every day when I have to watch these things. We could be watching good shows. No, we're watching this, and I'm sure next week we're watching something terrible too. But it's not a bad show. Check it out if it's your thing. It's not my thing, but whatever. I can watch it. Doesn't amuse me all that much. Mostly because the humor isn't the kind of humor I enjoy. But whatever. It's good. It's got good animation, distinct characters, heartburn for me, and, well, it made Ben honk at me 3 times.
Space Goose.
No, this ends. This is ending now. I'm getting the shotgun.
No, wait, I haven't given my thoughts
Give your
yet.
thoughts
I get to
before I
my
get the shotgun. You have 30 seconds to comply.
Okay, so I really liked this show. It is just perfectly right up my alley. It's the funniest sub I've ever seen in anything ever.
15 seconds!
I think that if you watched Sergeant Frog and you didn't get it, try watching this, because this is a lot less densely reference-heavy.
Hey, Ben!
You can enjoy it on its own principles. And, in conclusion, I have to run away now.
Shotgun time!
And I'm like a squid.
No!
Ooh, 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 ooh.
Good night!